All right, we're going to be talking about embodied emotion today, which basically we're going to be asking the question, how does our body affect our emotions and our emotional state? The autonomic nervous system controls arousal, and in an emergency, the sympathetic nervous system automatically mobilizes the body for fight or flight. And this directs the adrenal glands to release hormones that increase the heart rate, blood pressure, and blood sugar level. Other physical changes include tense muscles, dry mouth, dilated pupils, and slow digestion. That it'll also increase sweating. The parasympathetic nervous system calms the body after a crisis has passed, although arousal diminishes gradually. So in many situations, arousal is adaptive. For example, when you're taking a test, moderate arousal is best. In general, too little arousal can be disruptive, and too much can tax the body. Similar physiological arousal occurs during fear, anger, and sexual arousal, but nonetheless, the emotions of these states feel different. And despite similar arousal, sometimes our facial expressions differ during these states. For example, people may appear paralyzed with fear or ready to explode with anger. Imagine conducting an experiment measuring the physiological responses of emotion. So in each of 4 rooms, you have someone watching a movie. The first room, somebody's watching a horror movie. In the second, an anger-provoking movie. In the third, a sexually arousing film. And in the fourth, an utterly boring movie. From the control center, you can monitor each person's physiological responses. So, who do you think you could tell who is frightened, angry, or sexually aroused? With training, you could probably pick out the board viewer, but discerning the physiological differences among fear, anger, and sexual arousal would be much more difficult. Different emotions do not have sharply distinct biological signatures. To you and me, sexual arousal, fear, and anger nevertheless feel different, and despite similar arousal, emotions often look different. Fear and rage are sometimes accompanied by differing finger temperatures and hormone secretions. Emotions may also stimulate different facial muscles. During fear, brow muscles tense, and during joy, muscles in the cheek and under the eye pull into a smile. Emotions differ much more in the brain circuits they use. For example, brain scans are going to show increased activity in the amygdala during fear. And finally, emotions activate different areas of the brain's cortex. The right prefrontal cortex becomes more electrically active as people experience negative emotions like disgust, and the left frontal lobe shows more activity with positive emotions. The polygraph is a machine that measures several physiological indicators of emotion, for example, changes in breathing, cardiovascular activity, and perspiration. Research suggests it errs about 1/3 of the time, which is too often to justify its widespread use in business and government. It more often labels the innocent rather guilty than the guilty innocent. A more effective approach is what we call the guilty knowledge test, and several research teams are exploring new ways to detect deception. The spillover effect occurs when arousal from one event affects our response to other events. And dozens of experiments show that a stirred-up state can be experienced as different emotions depending on how we interpret it and label it. Arousal fuels emotion and cognition channels it. Sometimes we experience unlabeled emotion, and sensory input can take the low road, following a pathway that leads via the thalamus to the amygdala, bypassing the cortex and triggering a rapid reaction that is outside of our conscious awareness. Other more complex emotions, including hatred and love, require interpretation, and so they take the high road, being routed along the slower route to the cortex for analysis. Automatic emotion and the importance of conscious thinking and emotion illustrate our 2-track minds. And that's it.